Hello, everyone. Welcome to Crosscutting Concepts, one of the three dimensions of the Arizona Science Standards. Welcome, everyone. I'm hoping you can hear me. So, if you can give me a thumbs up or some indication that you can hear me today, that'd be great. I'm Sarah Torres, and I'm going to lead us in our learning of the cross-cutting concepts, one of the three dimensions of the Arizona Science Standards. And we're going to begin here in just a couple of minutes. My computer froze, and I'm hoping that all of you can hear me. Otherwise, I need to restart. Yes, good, Jessica. Yes, I am playing music. So good. Thank you. Right before, while I was hitting you to letting everyone in, it just my computer froze, and I was like, oh no. It's always the fear. We'll begin here in a couple minutes. 3:59. I hope all of you had a beautiful Tuesday. And during the next hour, we're going to learn about the cross-cutting concepts, one of the three dimensions of the Arizona Science Standards. And we'll get started here in just another minute or so. We expect a few more people to join us. All right. Well, I am cognizant of our time and do not want to, um, your time is precious. I'm Sarah Torres, and I am delighted to be here and learn with you about the cross-cutting concepts, one of the three dimensions of the Arizona Science Standards. And Sarah Sleesman is also with us this evening, and this afternoon, there she is, from the Arizona Department of Education. And it's been a true pleasure of working with Sarah and the Department of Education in understanding these new standards that were adopted in the fall of 2018. So today we're going to kind of dig into what is a cross-cutting concept and how do they help students gain and learn and figure out the phenomena that's in the world around them. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started, and let me see if I can find my pointer. So I just kind of want to know who's in the room, and so if you don't mind, I'm going to have you complete a poll to find out who is in the room. So you should see a poll on your screen, and if you don't mind taking a moment to respond to the poll that is on your screen of who is here with us today. quite a few of you are still answering. Good. All right, I'm going to end the poll. We'll take a look and see who is here. And many middle school teachers are in the room and that you may notice. So welcome. That's I started in high school and spent most of my career in middle school. So always nice to have you. But love to have the pre-K2 and the 3-5 with us as well, because you are the foundation of our science standards. And everyone here is a classroom teacher. That's great. Thank you. Thank you for your dedication. I know you've been working so hard, and then to spend another hour on Zoom. Thank you for that dedication. And to what degree do you understand the dimensions described in the Arizona? Many of you have heard of them, but aren't really sure if you could explain them to a colleague. And so hopefully by the end of today, you'll be able to explain what a cross-cutting concept is to a colleague. So again, thank you so very much for joining me. And well, let me stop sharing results so you can see your screen. We are a small group, and so we've disabled the microphones. However, we can easily you can unmute yourself but I know sometimes people feel more comfortable in the chat, but we'll utilize the chat throughout the time. But again, feel comfortable to unmute yourself. We are a small group, so you don't need to worry about that. And I would love to have you ask questions as we go through the time together. During our short 1 hour together, I would like my goal for the hours to help you shift the way you think about teaching science. And to help achieve that goal, there are 3 objectives for our time together. By understanding how cross-cutting concepts develop over time through implementing the Arizona Science Standards, students can deepen their knowledge and understanding of the core ideas. And as we go through our time together, I want us to remember today, during our time, and afterwards when you're implementing the standards, these norms. Please remember your AEIOUs. Now, just to let you know, at the end, probably tomorrow, Sarah or Rebecca from the Department of Education will be sending you this PowerPoint. So you don't need to worry about trying to write everything down, along with a resource page that can guide you. And whenever I share a resource, it's on that resource page. So you'll receive the PowerPoint and a resource page following this webinar. So thinking about cross-cutting concepts in our standards, this webinar is about just one of the dimensions of the Arizona Science Standards, and I would make the claim that an advantage of our Arizona Science Standards is that teachers and students can determine which cross-cutting concept makes sense for learning the core ideas. Now, during our time together this hour, I want your task is to determine if there's evidence that would support my claim, or is there a rebuttal to my claim. So please pay attention to this. Again, my claim is that an advantage of our standards is that teachers and students can determine which cross-cutting concept makes the most sense for learning the core idea that's being taught. So in just a few seconds, I'm going to click on a short video, and we're going to watch about a couple minutes of it. And what I'd like for you to do, if you have a piece of paper, I'd like for you to jot down your observations. Write down, what do you notice? There is no sound in this video, so that sometimes kind of upsets people, but I specifically have it so that there's no sound. So you're going to watch it, you're going to watch the video and record your wonderings and your notices. Okay, so that's your task. Record what you wonder, your observations, and your noticings. All right, so let's get going here. I need a, sorry, this is when all these little boxes jump out at you. You have another 10 seconds to continue writing down your observations and your noticings. Okay. In the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, since we're such a small group, please share what you noticed. What observations did you make? Ah, Joan's noticing that there are pollinators, there are hummingbirds. She knows type, it's a fox hummingbird, possibly migration. Okay. Michelle, you're noticing that there's layers of butterflies in that video. Large groups of insects. Yeah. And when you think about that hummingbird, as Joan pointed out right away, it was one of those hummingbirds that may have looked real, but of course it was the drone. So interesting how that worked within that by the butterflies. Yes, and Jessica noticed that one of the butterflies landed on the hummingbird. Great. Other observations, notices, wonderings that you made. You can unmute yourself and talk if you'd like. Great observation, Carolyn, that the majority of the butterflies were still, they weren't moving, they were just perched, if you want to say, on those trees. Other observations. Yeah, it's not just a few of those butterflies that migrate that you notice, Jessica. There's thousands and thousands of them. So you think about that. I'm wondering if any of you thought of any of these things as you watched that video. Did any of you notice a pattern? And if so, what caused the pattern you observed? I'm wondering if any of you noticed how the different components of this system interacted. I'm wondering if any of you noticed what caused the butterflies to move. And I'm wondering, is this system stable or unstable? And what evidence do you have or would you need to have to support your claim? I'm wondering. During the past 20 years, we have learned a lot about how the brain works and how people learn. There's books written about this. Cognitive psychologists have published numerous studies about how people learn, which has an impact on us in education. Current brain research makes a key distinction between the ways that experts and novices organize ideas. Experts use a conceptual framework. So, what is a conceptual framework? What's a framework? Go ahead and in the chat room or unmute yourself, share with me what you consider a framework is. And again, put your ideas of what is a framework in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and share with us what you think, what your definition of a framework is. It's a structure to build upon. It's where things are organized, the way ideas are organized and communicated. So that's structured, yeah. That helps us build upon ideas. When we think about a framework, I like to think of it as a house. It's the frame, the exterior walls, and then along with it, that can give us the rooms, and such as the bedrooms and the kitchen and the bathroom and the family room. Our conceptual framework is those different categories you could determine which room to put based upon what you know about that room. So if you had a new chair, you would know the intricacies of the different rooms to determine where does this chair go. An individual who has a novice conceptual framework of a house could not determine where the chair best fits. And so although the chair may be a kitchen stool, the novice might put it into the living room because that's what they know or don't know. So an expert uses a conceptual framework where a novice rely on surface features. If there is a couch in the living room, which is used to sit upon, the new chair, even though it might be a stool, is used to sit upon, goes in the living room. That would be a novice understanding of what a house and those rooms are. Let's think of another example. Think about novice drivers. What are some characteristics of a novice driver? Go ahead, put your ideas in the chat or unmute yourself. What are some characteristics of a novice driver? Nervous. I don't know if the driver is nervous or if the parent inside the car, the driver, or the guardian is nervous, Jessica. Other characteristics? They're awkward, they're unsure. They're typically, yeah, we're making an assumption, Joan, that many of our novice drivers are teens, but that's not always the case, but many are. They're inexperienced, possibly careless. I have a 16-year-old who is waiting patiently to take his road test. Uh, and he's trying to figure out how, when to shift the gears. How far in advance do I turn on the blinker? Do I use, what are these fog lights? When do I use those? How do I enter a highway? Yeah. And then when you think about an expert driver, you compare that novice to an expert driver. The expert driver knows how to get in and out of traffic and can avoid many mishaps. They also have an understanding about their vehicle, how it sounds, the hum of it, when it needs maintenance, besides when the lights turn on, right? The blinking light that says, oh, you need an oil change. They have a feeling about it. I like to share this story. My oldest son, 22 years old, came home and drove my car to the grocery store, and not very far, about 5 miles, and he came back and he said, Mom, there's something wrong with your car. And so, what's wrong? He goes, I don't know, just something wrong. Went out there, and the front tire was completely flat, not fat, flat. So, here he is. I would have thought he was more of an expert driver, and maybe in one way I should give him credit. He realized that there was something wrong with the vehicle. He just didn't realize what was wrong, nor did he take the time to look around what was wrong. So I need to work a little bit more with him to support him to be a little bit more, maybe observant might be the better word than, but of those ideas of between an expert driver and a novice driver. And so as you think about your role in education as the professional, you're going to need to help support those novice scientists and engineers in your classroom. And this is what the cross-cutting concepts aim to do. It's their aim to help us think more like scientists, more like experts. Take a look at these three. Oops, excuse me. Think about, what if we would give our students an expert-like conceptual framework to organize their ideas around? How will that help them? How will that change our sense-making discussions as they're figuring out the phenomena? There are 7 cross-cutting concepts: patterns, cause and effect, scale, proportion and quantity, systems and system models, energy and matter, structure and function, and stability and change. We're going to dig into each one of these a little bit more specifically as we go along. But as you think about those, how are they going to help the students learn science? How will those 7 cross-cutting concepts help them learn science? And the research says it'll help them make sense of new content and tackle novel problems. It allows the student to be flexible and creative. It helps them develop their understanding over time and dig deeper and deeper over time. So here they are again. Let's look into these. The first one that let's dig into is patterns. The cross-cutting concept of patterns highlights that structures or events are often consistent and repeated. Observed patterns of forms and events guide organization and classification. Patterns prompt questions about the factors that influence cause and effect relationships. We saw a pattern of not just one butterfly on the tree or just a few, But as one of you stated, there are thousands. What caused it? What caused them to fly? Is there a pattern? Do they all return in the evening? Do they all return to the same place every single year? Patterns are useful as evidence to support explanations and arguments. The cross-cutting concept of cause and effect investigates how things are connected by identifying the reasons behind an occurrence and what that occurrence resulted in. Events have causes, sometimes simple, sometimes multifaceted. Deciphering causal relationships and the mechanisms by which they are mediated is a major activity of science and engineering. In considering phenomena, it is critical to recognize what is relevant at different sizes, times, energy scales, and to recognize proportional relationships between different quantities as that scale changes. The cross-cutting concepts of systems and system models helps us understand that the world by describing how things interact, how they're webbed together. We can use simple representations to explore these interactions. Defining the system under study, specifying its boundaries, and making explicit a model of that system provides tools for understanding and testing ideas that are applicable through science and engineering. Tracing energy and matter flows into, out of, and within systems helps one understand their system's behavior, including the system's possibilities and limitations. The sixth cross-cutting concept, structure and function. An object's structure and shape determine many of its properties and functions. The structures, shapes, and substructures of living organisms determine how the organism functions to meet its needs within an environment. And both designed and natural systems, conditions that affect stability and factors that control rates of change are critical elements to consider and to understand. When we are making sense of phenomena, we tend to focus on causality. What is causing that phenomena to occur? And the cross-cutting concepts of cause and effect and structure and function become our focal point. But as we look for that, as we're studying that causality, which leads us to looking for patterns, and which leads us to defining the system of those patterns. These three components are interrelated and they encompass the 7 CCCs. What questions do you have at this point about the cross-cutting concepts? And again, you can put those in the chat room or you can unmute yourself. It might be easier just to unmute. Don't see anything? Okay. All right. So far it makes sense. Good to know. Thank you. Well, I'm going to show this again. There's 7 cross-cutting concepts because now it's a quiz. So nobody asked any questions, so we're ready for the quiz. We're going to, in just a minute, I'm going to put up another Zoom poll. And with that Zoom poll, there's the multiple choice question that's going to repeat 7 times. It will repeat the same question with the same answers, but you have to choose which answer to put. I'm going to put on the screen a slide, and it's going to have three pictures. Looking at those three pictures, which cross-cutting concept unites those three pictures? What would connect those three pictures? So, and every 20 seconds, I'm going to change the screen and you'll see a new set of pictures. So let's make sure, first of all, that you can see the poll. I'm going to launch the new poll. And you should see the poll. And I'm going to share you. So you'll just scroll down the poll to complete each of the slides. And like I said, there's 7 slides. And you will, so here is slide A. You have 20 seconds. Go ahead and choose which one makes the most sense. I'm going to switch the slide. Slide B. Okay, let's go to slide C. Which cross-cutting concept connects these three pictures? Here's slide D. Couple more seconds left. Here is slide E. Just to note, that picture up on the top right is someone coughing. Kind of current information. Here is slide F. And here is slide G. And when you're done, you can hit submit. Results are coming in. Couple more people to submit your polls. That's okay, Joan. Here, let me go back. I'll show you what E looks like. That's E. Understand I have multiple coworkers at home. If that helps you. So that's E, and then that's F, and that's G. So I'll go back to E. So E, F, and G. Okay, I'm going to have you end the poll. So ready to check your answers? Not too difficult? Just want to remind everybody that the concept, there's no right or wrong on which lens. We can argue and have discourse about which lens makes sense for us and that connects them. But there's many different ways. And so when we look at these answers, please realize that these are kind of what I think. So let's share the results. So on slide A, many of you said scale, proportion, and quantity. And I would agree with that argument that it is scale, proportion, and quantity. Could it be those others? Definitely, when we're thinking about structure and function, and we're thinking about systems and system models, uh, there could be reasonings for those two as well. Slide B, you said patterns, and I would agree with you. Slide B is patterns. Could it be energy and matter? Definitely. Could it be stability and change? We can make a claim and for all of those, but I would say that the best evidence would go for patterns for this one. Slide C, as you can see, many of you chose energy and matter, and I would agree with that, mainly when that kind of even says those and the word energy right up there on the screen, but you're looking at the matter, so how it affects matter. So definitely most of you agree with me that that would be energy and matter. Slide D, stability and change. And again, I would agree with that answer that it's stability and change. That would be the best choice. Could it be the other ones? Definitely, there's definitely patterns of how things go and the cause and effect over time. Again, scale, proportion, and quantity. If we wanted to look at scale of time over time, the systems and system models. So we can utilize either any of those cross-cutting concepts, but one I think fits out better than the other. Slide E is cause and effect, and the majority of you, 88% of you, chose cause and effect. But this could also, I love the fact that somebody chose stability and change, because we do see that, right? We do with the erosion, with the Newton's cradle. It's a stable motion, but it's changing, and how long does it take to become back and stable? So definitely there could be reasoning behind that one as well. Slide F, structure and function. And again, the majority of you chose that one as the best choice, and I would agree. And slide G, systems and system models. A variety of systems and system models. And again, though we could look at the structure and function of each of those areas. We could look at energy matter. We can be thinking about, well, what's causing this and the effects of it. So there is no wrong answer. There might be just some that are better than others based upon the evidence and our reasoning behind that. Thank you so much for your willingness to be tested on those cross-cutting concepts in such a short time after learning them. But what I hope you gained is that cross-cutting concepts are valuable tools that help us make sense of the phenomena around us. And with that, let's go back and watch this video. And this time, I want you to choose one or two of the cross-cutting concepts. Think for a moment. There's patterns, there's cause and effect, there is systems and system models, there's structure and function, there is scale, proportion, and quantity, there's energy and matter, and there's stability and change. Choose one, choose two, and as you watch this video, what do you notice with that lens, with the idea of looking for stability and change? What do you notice now in the video that you may not notice earlier? What do you observe now about energy and matter that you may not have noticed earlier? So that's your task as we continue to watch this video. I'm going to move it up to where we ended. So again, I'd like for you to share in the chat or just unmute yourself. You can easily do that. How does looking through one lens, what did you notice looking through one of the cross-cutting concept lenses that you didn't notice before? How did it help you make sense of the phenomena? Carolyn, can you add, what do you mean by you notice the chaos? You were looking at patterns. Add to that. And if you need to unmute yourself to explain it, please do. Yeah, the harder, yeah. And what caused that stability to go to an unstable environment? Hmm. Interesting, Carolyn. You were thinking about you knowing, you having this understanding about butterflies and migration and that it occurs every year. But when you look at this close-up video of this little, so thinking of the scale, proportion, and quantity here, right? Time is one of those factors. So you are narrowing the time and you're only looking at this one little section of time factor. You're not noticing the pattern of migration from year to year. Thank you very much for bringing that out. So though you're looking through one lens and hoping to see this lens, another lens of scale, proportion, and quantity wasn't giving you the full picture. Others. Oh, Joan, the system, the habitat. Yeah, how that system for migration can change. And I'm wondering, Joan, when you think about those butterflies being in that central location and that many in that system, what does it do to the system? And maybe that goes back to Radhari Erickson's idea of thinking, making the system stable, and then how quickly it changed. If we think about the habitat and the environment, does their migration affect that environment? And if so, how? Other observations. So, thank you, Eric. From the energy and matter lens, I think, yeah. If you think about those habitats and getting stability and change, but how many habitats are left that allow for that much energy? Because you know those butterflies, I mean, thinking about the structure that they have and what they're doing to that system and where they are going to get that energy to keep them during that migration. Ah. So as we look at these questions that you may have thought of as you were looking through those lenses, it could, did you notice a pattern? What was causing that pattern? How are those components of that system interacting? Ah, what caused the butterfly to move? And if you think about the very beginning of our first few questions, our first few comments was more about the drone hummingbird. But now thinking about it in bigger terms and bigger light of what we're looking at. Is the system stable or unstable? What evidence do you have or would you need to support your claim? Again, the cross-cutting concepts are essential for science teaching and learning. The utility of the cross-cutting concepts in supporting students for making sense of phenomena. What questions do you have at this point? Or comments? Oh, great question. Do you supply the cross-cutting concept lens or let the students? Anybody want to respond to that? I think this is where everybody's being quiet. Ooh. Yeah, I agree with you, Joan. I think both. I think as a teacher, you can help guide them maybe to a specific cross-cutting concept that helps you understand the phenomena. But you have to, what they see and what they understand and how they make sense of the phenomena is theirs personally, right? And so allowing them to do that and explaining them, asking the students. With my own children, sometimes it's great to say, so you notice that. What cross-cutting concept helped you understand that more as you were looking at the chemical interaction of that? When you noticed that the ice was melting and you're learning about phase changes, what cross-cutting concept are you focusing on? And many times it's cause and effect, right? The effect is it's melting. The cause is that the ice warmed up and it was melting. Thinking of a middle school student response, since many of you are middle school students. But what if you push that further and you could say, I agree that it can be cause and effect. Question is, does that happen with all materials, all substances? Do they all melt? Is this a pattern, or is this a pattern only with ice? I'm wondering if you think about energy and matter, and we're studying chemical interactions, and we're learning solids, gases, liquid solids and gases, and how that goes. Are we working with matter, or are we working with energy, or are we working with both? Help me understand what you're thinking. So I would agree with Joan and Eric. I think it's both. And as we look at our standards, and I would say this is part of the advantage of our standards, is that we can have both ways. We can have it be the teacher leading it, and we can have it so the student's leading it. So you can pull off the standards, and as we look at the standards, I'm wondering, where are the cross-cutting concept? Here's a third grade standard. Where is the cross-cutting concept? There's patterns. Cause and effect. Don't see stability and change in there. The cross-cutting concept is not written in the actual standard. However, when you look at the standards document, it is in the right-hand column of the document, and it states the cross-cutting concepts and background information for educators. You will notice for this third grade standard that all 7 of the cross-cutting concepts are listed, but only two of them are bolded: systems and system models, and structure and function. Why do you think only two are bolded? What does this mean? Focus on. Those are the main ones to focus on for that grade level. So let me go a little bit further. When we look at third grade, that was a third grade standard. Construct an argument from evidence that organisms are interdependent. It's got the three up there. And I go to the page at the beginning of that standards for third grade. Up at the very top, it says third grade. Focus on systems and system models and structure and function. This means that throughout the year, you, the expert, the professional, the teacher, you will want to scaffold the understanding of these two cross-cutting concepts. You want to be explicit while you're teaching and can pull these two cross-cutting concepts out. That does not mean you do not teach the others or have students ignore using the lens of the other CCCs to understand the core idea. It's just a focus area so that all 7 of them are explicitly taught through their science education. So are they the focus? They're the focus for that grade level, but do they need to be the focus for this standard? No, they may not be. In fact, you may want to choose a different one. You may want to look at cause and effect. You may want to look at the energy and matter and how it can be. You may want to look at stability and change if it makes sense for the students to look through those lenses. Again, if we go back to our house example with the new chair, a person may have experience with a stool from school in a lab room and would consider having the stool at a table rather than in a living room. Different lenses provides opportunities for students to make a connection and deepen their understanding of the core ideas that are being taught through making sense of the phenomena. All CCCs can be used to teach this standard. It depends upon what will make the most sense for the student. What will make the most sense for the student to help them learn the core idea that organisms are interdependent. Each grade level, K through 8, has CCCs that are focus areas. Kindergarten focuses on pattern, structure, and function. First grade focus on cause and effect, stability, and change. Second grade, systems and system models, energy and matter. Third grade, systems and system models, structure and function. Fourth grade, systems and system models, energy and matter, stability and change. Fifth grade, patterns, scale, proportion, and quantity. Sixth grade, patterns, scale, proportion, and quantity, systems and system models, energy and matter. Seventh grade, patterns, cause and effect, structure and function. Eighth grade, energy and matter, and stability and change. Yet, in high school, there doesn't show any cross-cutting concepts up at the top. There's no focus. Why? Why doesn't the high school list any to be a focus? Yeah. They should be able to bring it all together. They have that main foundation from K through 8 of understanding and knowing those lenses. Do we still need to build upon that understanding? Of course we do. So when you look at the high school lens, high school standards, you will see on the left-hand side, it has the standard. On the right-hand side, again, it has that cross-cutting concepts and background information for educators, but all 7 of them are listed and none of them are bolded. It could be the opposite, right? Maybe all of them should be bolded because all of them can be the focus in high school. What questions do you have? The expectations for what students should know and be able to do with each of these cross-cutting concepts are different from each grade level. So let's take a minute and let's look at the progression. You go to the Arizona Department of Education. They just changed their website. You'll click on Academic Standards and go to Science Standards. And then you can pull down, the standards are right here if you'd like to. But we're going to look at these vertical progressions. What does it look like from one grade to the next? And under the vertical progressions, you get this drop down, and it has vertical progressions of cross-cutting concepts. And if you click on that, you come up with a document that looks like this. It's about 4 pages long in green, and it has each of the cross-cutting concepts at a different section, and it's in grade band. So you have this is patterns, you have K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. What does it need to look like for what a student in 3 through 5, what should they be able to know and do regarding patterns? These little bullets are called elements. This is what it should look like in your classroom. You should be providing opportunities for students to do this. So if we go a little bit closer, you can look at patterns and what the elements are. Take a moment and read across this, and what do you notice about these progressions? Do these progressions, does it make sense? You should notice that the level of sophistication increases as you would expect, that how a 12th grader and their lens of looking for patterns is different than a kindergartner's. So think about your own grade level standards. How can you integrate the cross-cutting concepts into your classroom? And which cross-cutting concepts would you use as a lens to teach the standards? Think about what you're teaching tomorrow. Is there a lens that you would want to help students use to make sense of the phenomena? I claimed at the very beginning that an advantage of our standards is that the teachers and students can determine which cross-cutting concept makes sense for learning the core ideas. What evidence did you collect to support or negate this claim as we went along our hour together? Again, you can unmute yourself, or you can type in the chat, what evidence did you collect to support or negate this claim? Yeah. Thank you, Carolyn. You're so right. It allows the integration. It allows for the scaffolding. Maybe you want to get to stability and change, but maybe you have to start with patterns first and what's causing that pattern or what may be affecting that pattern, and to think about that stability and change. Thank you very much. A few key takeaways before we end our hour together I'd like for you to remember. The cross-cutting concepts are fundamental tools for making sense of the phenomena. They do not operate independently. Making sense of the interactions between and among them adds significantly to students' understanding of science phenomena, as Radhari just noticed, and so did Eric, about how they can be integrated to allow that. You, as the professional, you can structure questions about those cross-cutting concepts, which can provide a scaffold upon which students can build understanding. As students progress through their K-12 education, they will be able to build upon their understanding of not only the cross-cutting concepts, but also of the core ideas as we help them become expert-like thinkers. And before we leave today, if you have any last questions, we'd be open to answer those. And I'm just grateful for you joining me today, and appreciate the time to learn together. I know that Sarah has a few announcements before we end our time.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. I just wanted to be able to jump on and thank you for sharing how the cross-cutting concepts, one of our three dimension, really is essential component to really pulling in all those three-dimensional learning pieces together. Sarah also will be in October having two more in this series, one on the science and engineering practices. And she's also going to have a very first one out on the core ideas. So we're looking forward to those coming up in October. We're working right now on putting those events up in our system. So look for those coming out in the future. I also wanted to let you know that manually we put up the attendance in the next 24 to 48 hours. So once that is done, what will happen is you will receive an email from the EMS system to ask you to complete that survey. And once you've completed the survey, then you can obtain that certificate. We do not email those certificates directly to you. So that is all done in the events management system. We get a lot of emails asking for the certificates, and that directly comes through EMS. So wait for that for 24 to 48 hours. Tomorrow, you'll either receive an email from myself or a specialist, Rebecca, with all of the links and all of the resources that Sarah mentioned today in this webinar. So we just want to say thank you for your attendance today. And then when we are all wrapped up, I think momentarily, Sarah will be closing up the room.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.